Well, hello there. Welcome to the very first episode of our huge campaign. A campaign to paint every single miniature from the Dungeon Saga Original and the Dungeon Saga Origins board game by Mantic Games. Now, we're going to start with the heroes from the Dungeon Saga Origins. Dungeon Saga Origins came with 10 heroes, including some of the very popular ones that we knew from the very first Dungeon Saga. And of course, I'm going to start with Danor, and he's our human wizard. And this is the miniature here that comes in the Dungeon Saga Origins set. So we're going to start painting these miniatures today. We'll go through the step-by-step guide on how I'm going to paint this miniature. Now, I have worked out something that's going to be a bit of an issue. Now, these miniatures come in a little display box, so you can put the miniatures back inside the box once you've finished with them. Now, the only problem with that is there's a little kind of clip inside the box. So it means if you paint this base, or we add sand to this base, every time you put this miniature back into the box, it's going to scrape the back of the base and it's going to pull the sand off. So any painting you add to the base or sand, and if you want to keep your miniatures inside the box, the paint's going to rub off, even if you add varnish, because the way the figures are kept into the box, there's little clips, and these clips are going to run across all our bases. So I'm still going to base my miniatures, but it means I will not be able to put them in the box for the Dungeon Saga Origins, the trays. So just keep that in mind if you are going to base your miniatures like I'm going to do with sand. If you want to keep them in the box, do not put any sand or anything on the bottom of these bases, because they will not go back into the packaging without ripping off the sand or anything you've put on that base. So that's just a word of warning. You add flocking or whatever to your base if you do not intend to keep the miniatures inside the box and the packaging it came with. And I'll show you that at the end of the video. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is all the heroes I am going to give undercoats of white. So I'll come back once I've added the white to this miniature. So we've added our base coat. What we got here is we have pure white from MSP Paints. Now, for my miniatures, for the whole series that we're doing, I'll be using the paints from Reaper Miniatures. We'll be using MSP Paints. They're my favourite paints. And for washes, we'll probably be using Games Workshop washes like Agrax Earthshade and Nun Oil. And we'll be using the Flesh Wash from Army Painter. So we'll be using a few different paints and inks from different companies, but 99% of all the colours and neutral colours will be from Reaper Miniatures. And I will give a list with links below every single video of all the paints that I used in every single video. Now, what I'm going to do as well for each video is I'm not going to spend hours and hours showing you the painting. What I've done here, I've already added my sand. This is a mixture of sand from the beach and some very fine seashells which have been crushed, and it's my own little mixture, and it just gives a nice little base. You've got a sprinkling of sand and the little shells, and once that's painted grey, it will look like a dungeon base. So that's what I'm going to be doing for every single miniature, and all my miniatures are going to be primed white as well. The evil miniatures, they'll all be primed probably in black or browns, but for the heroes we're using the white. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to block in all the colours. And now for the colours for Dana, he has got lots of purples and reds. So what we're going to be using for Dana is we got Gothic Crimson, Gory Red, Rainy Grey for the base, Wood-stained Brown for the legs, Void Blue for the little strips around the edges of his clothes. For the flesh, we are using some warrior flesh, and we have some pure white and solid black, and that'll be roughly our colours for this miniature. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill in all the blocking in of colours, and what we'll do is on each miniature, once I've blocked in all the colours, I can just show you how I highlight and finish off this miniature. There's no point in me doing a very long video on each video showing you how to paint blocking in the colours. I think each video should be about 10 minutes long. I'm showing you the main parts of the miniature that need emphasis and for some inspiration. If you want to see anything different, and just leave in the comments below if there's anything you want me to show in future videos that you think will help you on your painting journey. Okay, so all the blocking in of colours is done now. We've got the blues, purples and the reds and the browns all added. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some army paint of flesh wash to all the skin areas. And we shall do all the highlights on the rest of the miniature. Now the army paint of flesh wash is absolutely fantastic for adding some beautiful effects to all your skin. It gives an instant shadow. So we'll just quickly go over the skin. Just let the ink go into all the recesses. This picks out all the little fingers. Okay. Moving on to the clothes, we're going to start painting the red now, some highlights. So what I'm doing is I'm adding some white to the red, so it's the original colours. We've got the pure white and the gory red there. And I'm just adding a little bit of white to the gory red, just to make it a little bit lighter. On my palette here, and all I'm going to do is the highest areas. I'm just going to add a little bit of the lighter red. It's like a top highlight, just following the folds of the clothes. I'm leaving the bottom because that's where the shadow is, so it's just all the top areas, and the same on the front here. We'll just go over here and just add a little bit of highlight. And the top of the boots. And same on the back. Just on the folds, just the highest folds, that's all. It's a very, very simple, what I'm trying to do is I'm just doing like a tabletop standard paint on all my miniatures. So it's nothing super duper, but it's enough to make them look fab in your games. When you paint thousands of miniatures like I do, you really can't do a showcase quality paint. Or life is not long enough. Life is not long enough. There we are. Okay, that's lovely. So it's just adding little highlights to little parts of this miniature. Fantastic. So I'm just going to wash my brush, and we're going to do exactly the same, but with the wood stained brown and the white now. Just for the staff, we're just adding a little bit of white to the brown. And we'll just go over little parts of the... Yes, nice, yes. It just brings out a little bit of the... And a little bit on the side of the bags here. And we're just, the only highlights we're doing, all we're doing is we're adding white to our initial colours. So all we're doing is making a lighter shade of the initial colours that we've used on the actual miniature to begin with. We're blocking in. And I'm just adding these little bits all around, just highlighting certain areas. And there's some little bags here. So we're just on the folds, the highest part of the folds, Just add in the highlight. Encase the bag again. Just edging on the bag. So. And of course the staff again. Just the highest parts of the staff. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a tissue and see my brush here. I'm just going to take the paint off the brush and just like a dry brush I'm just going to go across the top of the hair like so, just to quickly add to pick out the hair on this miniature. There we go. Super simple, quick and effective. Well, it's time to get the hardest part of the miniature done. We've got my 20 brush by Reaper Miniatures. I'm just giving it a very fine point, and I'm going directly into my pure white. I've got a nice close-up so you can see what I'm up to. It's quite difficult because I got the actual... Let's get that. There we go. There we go. We're actually super duper close to the camera. And all I'm going to do is add a little bit of white there. And the same on the other side. A little bit of white. Best not to overthink it when you're painting eyes. And that's our white in. And I'm happy with that. That's good. Okay. Now let's get the pupils in. So again, we're just going into pure black this time, and just a tiniest of dots going into the eye. Just a steady hand, don't breathe, and in you go. That's one, absolutely tiny, and two, and we are done. Excellent. For the glowing fire and his hand and the magic effects, I'm using Tesseract Glow by Games Workshop. This is a very nice technical paint, and it gives a really nice effect over white. It gives a nice light crystal ghoulish effect. It looks absolutely stunning once it dries, and it just really adds to the miniature and gives off really magical powers with the Tesseract Glow. I was just going over all these white areas, and of course you need to paint over white to this to get the full effect. And the green is going into all the little recesses. And of course it's given a two-tone effect of the dark green and the light green, and it just works out to be very nice. What we can do is once that's dry, we can add a little white line to the crystals just to pick out some there. Now for the base, I am just going to add some black ink wash, and then I'm going to dry brush over the black ink wash with some grey mixed with white. And we'll go around the rim of the base in black just to finish off the rim of the base. We'll go, and to finish off this miniature, we're just going to add some gold to the book. I'm just going to add this to the emblem on the book. This is gold. We're just going along the... just following the path as best we can. Now to get a really nice gold effect, we just add the gold over the areas here, and then we go over the top once it's dry with a brown ink wash. This will pick out what we've just done, but it also gives a very antique-y look to the actual gold. So that looks really nice. Now there's also a little bit of gold on his buckle here, Very simple. We're just going to add it just there. Little tiny little dots of metal going around the buckle. Just there. And a little bit just there. Perfect. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of brown ink wash on top of that gold there. I'm going to finish off the base, and I'm going to call him done. I'll give you a little 360 of the finished miniature.